The scout frigate Meridian's Edge tumbled through the debris field, hull breached in 3 places, oxygen venting into the void. Lieutenant Chen gripped the emergency console as another explosion rocked the ship. Through the viewport, she saw them. 7 Carthene warships, each one bristling with weapons that could vaporize what remained of her vessel in seconds. "All hands, this is Chen. Abandon ship procedures now. We have 90 seconds. Her voice stayed level even as the deck tilted beneath her feet. The Carthene had come out of nowhere, dropping from dark space right on top of their patrol route. Now her crew of 12 was scrambling for the escape pods, while enemy targeting lasers painted their dying ship. The first pod launched. Then the second. Chen counted heads through the internal monitors. Ensign Okoye. Specialist Rodriguez. The engineering team. Good. The third pod's indicator light flickered red. Jammed. She heard shouting through the comm system. Pod 3 won't seal. It was Corporal Hayes, the youngest member of the unit. Just 19. The hatch mechanism is fried. Chen was already moving, boots magnetic locked to the deck as artificial gravity failed. The ship groaned around her, superstructure twisting. 40 seconds. She reached Pod 3's access corridor and saw Hayes wrestling with the manual override. Behind him, 3 other crew members waited, faces pale but controlled. "Leave it," Chen ordered. "Pod 4. Move." They ran. The Carthene weren't firing yet, which meant they wanted prisoners. Intelligence assets. That made this worse. Chen had seen the reports from the frontier worlds. The Carthene Empire didn't just interrogate captives. They dissected them, studied them, tried to understand what made humanity so stubbornly effective in combat despite being physically weaker than most species in known space. Pod 4 sealed. Chen slammed her fist on the launch button and felt the kick as it fired away from the dying frigate. Through the small viewport, she watched the Meridian's Edge break apart in a bloom of fire and metal. 28 months she'd served on that ship. Now it was wreckage. The Carthene tractor beams caught them immediately. All 4 escape pods were dragged toward the largest warship, a dreadnought whose hull was marked with kill tallies in glowing script. Chen recognized the symbols. The Sundered Crown, flagship of Prince Vokresh, third in line to the Carthene throne. "Listen carefully," Chen said into the pod's comm system, linking to the other 3 pods. "Standard resistance protocols. Name, rank, serial number only. Do not antagonize them. Do not try to escape. Stay alive and wait for extraction." She paused. "Earth doesn't leave scouts behind. Ma'am, there's no fleet within 3 days of this sector." That was Lieutenant Park from Pod 2. "We're alone out here." "I know. Stay alive anyway. That's an order." The dreadnought's hangar bay swallowed them. The pods clanked down on the deck, surrounded immediately by Carthene soldiers. They were imposing, 8 feet tall, 4-armed, covered in segmented armor that looked organic, almost like it had been grown. Their faces were hidden behind helmets that reflected like oil on water. The pod hatch blew open. Atmosphere rushed in, thick and hot and smelling of copper and something else, something chemical. Chen raised her hand slowly and stepped out. Hayes and the others followed. Around them, the other pods were opening. 12 humans, now prisoners of an empire that had been systematically conquering its way through this sector for 2 centuries. A Carthene officer approached, taller than the soldiers, armor marked with rank insignia. When it spoke, the translator in the hangar converted its clicks and harmonic tones into flat standard English. "You will be separated and processed. Resistance will result in immediate termination." They were pulled apart with brutal efficiency. Chen caught Hayes' eye as they dragged him away. The kid looked terrified but nodded once. Good. He'd hold. The corridor they marched her through was enormous, built for beings twice human size. The walls were lined with what looked like living tissue, pulsing faintly. The Carthene mixed biology and technology in ways humanity still couldn't fully understand. It made their ships faster, their weapons more adaptive, their empire nearly unstoppable. They threw Chen into a cell. The door sealed with a sound like breaking bones. She was alone in a space barely large enough to stand in, walls the color of bruised flesh. A single light source overhead provided dim illumination. No furniture. No obvious surveillance equipment, though she knew they were watching. She sat down, back against the wall, and began counting. 60 seconds to a minute. 60 minutes to an hour. She'd been trained for this. Isolation, disorientation, the prelude to interrogation. The key was maintaining mental discipline. She thought about her crew, scattered somewhere in this ship. She thought about the Meridian's edge, about the 3 years of patrol logs and star charts that were now in enemy hands. But mostly she thought about something her instructor had told her during survival training. Humans had one advantage in this galaxy full of stronger, faster, more advanced species. They were stubborn beyond all reason. They didn't quit, even when quitting made sense. The door opened. A Carthene entered, different from the others. Its armor was ceremonial rather than tactical, marked with royal seals. It studied Chen with 4 eyes that reflected no light, just absorbed it. "I am Prince Vokresh," the translator rendered. "You are Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Scout vessel Meridian's Edge. Your ship violated the territorial boundaries of the Carthene Empire. Under our law, this is an act of war." Chen stood slowly. "Under Earth law, we were in neutral space. Your charts are wrong, or you moved your boundary markers." Again, the prince tilted his massive head. "You have courage. It will not save you. Nor will it save the 11 others we have taken. You will tell us everything about Earth's defensive positions in this sector, their fleet deployments, their technological capabilities. And you will do it willingly, or you will do it while screaming. Name, rank, serial number," Chen said. "That's all you get." Prince Vokresh made a sound that might have been laughter. "We shall see. Humans break easily once they understand how far they are from help." He turned and left, the door sealing behind him. Chen sat back down and resumed counting. Somewhere on this ship were 11 people who depended on her to be strong. She wouldn't let them down. Earth didn't leave scouts behind, even when Earth didn't know where they were. The interrogation began 8 hours later. Chen was strapped to a table that adjusted itself to her smaller frame, restraints tightening across her wrists and ankles. The room was cold now, deliberately so. 2 Carthene technicians worked at stations along the walls, manipulating controls that looked like exposed nervous systems. Prince Vokresh stood at the foot of the table, 2 of his 4 arms crossed. "We will begin with simple questions. How many Earth vessels patrol this sector?" "Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen." "Service number." Pain lanced through her left arm. Not sharp, but deep, like her bones were vibrating apart from the inside. It lasted 3 seconds and stopped. Chen gasped, teeth clenched. "The device bonded to your nervous system can create pain without causing damage," Vokresh said calmly. "We can continue this for days, weeks. Your body will not fail, but your mind will fracture. I have seen it happen to species far more resilient than humans. Answer the question." "Service number 773. The pain again, longer this time. Chen heard herself make a sound, hated it, couldn't stop it. When it ended she was shaking. "Where are Earth's fleet staging areas?" "November Delta 4. This time the pain went on for 10 seconds. Chen's vision whited out. She came back to consciousness with blood in her mouth from biting her tongue. Your resistance is admirable but pointless. We have already begun interrogating the others. The young one, Hayes. He will break before you do. They always break first. That cut through the pain Hayes. Chen forced her head up. You touch him, I'll tell you nothing. Ever. Vokresh leaned closer. You misunderstand your position. You have no leverage. You have nothing to bargain with. You are alone. We're never alone. Chen's voice was raw. Every scout unit has protocols. If we don't report in, the fleet comes looking. You've got maybe 40 hours before this sector is crawling with Earth warships. We have encountered your protocols before. We have defeated your fleets before. The Carthene Empire has conquered 47 species over 2 centuries. Humanity will be the 48th. He gestured to the technicians. Increase the intensity. What followed was worse than anything Chen had trained for. The device they'd attached to her spine made her own nervous system attack itself. There was no escape from pain that came from inside. She tried counting again, tried reciting regulations, tried focusing on anything external, but the agony filled everything. She didn't know how long it lasted. Could have been hours. Could have been days. Time became meaningless, just a series of peaks and valleys where the pain either crushed her completely or merely made breathing difficult. Finally, it stopped. She hung in the restraints, soaked with sweat, every muscle trembling. Prince Vokresh's face swam into focus above her. Impressive endurance, but futile. Tomorrow we will bring in Corporal Hayes. You will watch while we do to him what we have done to you. And you will break, Lieutenant Commander. They all break. They dragged her back to her cell and threw her inside. Chen collapsed immediately, couldn't stand, could barely think. But through the haze of pain and exhaustion, one thought crystallized. She had to protect her crew. Especially Hayes. He was just a kid. Hours passed. Chen slowly regained enough strength to sit up. Her body felt wrong, nerves still firing randomly, muscles twitching. But she was thinking clearly again. That was what mattered. The door opened. She tensed, expecting guards, expecting to be dragged back to the interrogation room. Instead, a Carthene soldier tossed something inside. A ration pack, human compatible. The door sealed again. Chen stared at the pack. They were feeding her, keeping her alive. That meant they still needed information, which meant her crew was still alive too. She ate mechanically, forcing down the flavorless paste. Calories were resources. Resources meant survival. She thought about Prince Vokresh's threat. Bringing Hayes in, torturing him while she watched. It was psychological warfare, designed to break her resistance by attacking something she cared about. Standard technique. But knowing that didn't make it less effective. Unless she gave them something. Not real intelligence. Nothing that could hurt Earth. But something plausible enough to delay the next interrogation. Something to buy time. Chen's mind raced through possibilities. The Carthene wanted fleet positions, technological data, defensive strategies. All of it classified, all of it dangerous to reveal. But she could give them outdated information. Data from sectors they'd already abandoned. Fleet positions from 3 months ago that had since rotated. She'd memorized the old deployment schedules during training. Every scout did, in case they needed to feed false intelligence to an enemy. It was risky. If they caught her lying, they'd escalate. But if she gave them nothing, they'd torture Hayes. She couldn't allow that. The door opened again. 2 guards hauled her to her feet. Chen's legs barely supported her weight, but she forced herself to walk. They took her down different corridors this time, deeper into the ship. The walls here were more biological than mechanical, pulsing with internal rhythms that made her skin crawl. They entered a large chamber. Prince Vokresh stood at its center, But he wasn't alone. Behind him, suspended in some kind of stasis field, were 6 of her crew. Not dead, but unconscious, floating in midair while Carthene technicians studied them with instruments that looked like metal insects. "We are learning much about human physiology," Bokersh said. "Your species is remarkably fragile. Weak bones, slow healing, single redundancy organs. And yet you fight as if you were apex predators. It is fascinating." Chin's anger cut through her fear. "Let them go. You want information, I'll talk. But you let them go. You are negotiating again." "I thought we established that you have no leverage." But Bokersh made a gesture, and the technicians stopped their work. "However, I am curious. What information would you exchange for their release?" "Fleet deployment schedules. Sectors 7 through 12. Current as of last month." "And why would you suddenly cooperate?" "Because you were right. I can't watch you hurt them. Especially not the kid." Chin kept her voice flat, defeated. "Selling it." "You win. Just let them go and I'll tell you everything." Bokersh studied her for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been satisfaction. "You will tell us everything regardless. But I appreciate your acceptance of reality. It will make the process smoother." "Begin." Chin started talking. She gave them fleet positions from sectors that had been reassigned months ago. Ship classifications that were 1 generation out of date. Communication protocols that had been cycled 3 times since she'd memorized them. She mixed truth with lies, real data with fabrications, creating a picture that was plausible but useless. Bokersh listened, occasionally asking questions. Chen answered carefully, maintaining consistency. The key to good misdirection was internal logic. If the lies supported each other, they were harder to detect. Finally, the prince raised a hand. "Enough. We will verify this information. If you have deceived us, the consequences will be severe. Return her to her cell." As they dragged her away, Chin caught a glimpse of her crew floating in their stasis fields. Lieutenant Park, Ensign Okoye, Specialist Rodriguez. All alive. All depending on her. Back in her cell, Chin allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. She'd bought time. Maybe 24 hours, maybe less. The Carthene would check her information against their own intelligence, realize some of it was false, and come back for more. But 24 hours was enough. The scout protocols were specific. If a vessel didn't report in within 48 hours, the nearest fleet element would investigate. The Meridian's Edge had been overdue for 18 hours when they'd been captured. That meant Earth forces would arrive in approximately 30 hours. Assuming anyone had noticed they were missing. Assuming the fleet wasn't tied up in another sector. Assuming the Carthene didn't simply jump to dark space and disappear before help arrived. A lot of assumptions. But they were all Chen had. The door opened. Chin's heart sank. Too soon. They couldn't have verified her information this quickly. But it wasn't guards. It was Corporal Hayes, pushed roughly into the cell. The door sealed behind him. "Ma'am!" Hayes straightened despite his obvious exhaustion. His uniform was torn and he had a bruise darkening on his jaw, but he was alert. "Are you okay?" "I'll live." "You?" They asked questions. When I wouldn't answer, they hit me a few times, but nothing like... He gestured vaguely at Chen. "They said they were saving the real stuff for later." Chen nodded. "They put us together to see if we'll talk to each other. They're listening." "I know." Hayes sat down across from her. "So we don't say anything useful. We just stay strong." But his hands were shaking. He clasped them together, trying to hide it. "How old are you really?" Chen asked quietly. 19. I know I look younger. You're doing good, Corporal. Better than good. I'm proud of you. Hayes's eyes glistened. He blinked hard. Thank you, ma'am. I just keep thinking about home. My mom, she didn't want me to enlist. Said space was too dangerous. He laughed, sharp and bitter. Guess she was right. She was also right that you're brave enough to handle it. You haven't broken. That takes real strength. They sat in silence for a while. Chin could feel the ship moving around them, the subtle vibrations of a vessel under power. The Carthene were going somewhere. That was bad. If they jumped to dark space before Earth forces arrived, rescue became exponentially harder. Ma'am, do you really think they'll come for us? Chin met his eyes. Yes, I do. Earth doesn't leave scouts behind. It's not just protocol, it's who we are. Somewhere out there, people are looking for us. We just have to stay alive until they arrive. And if they don't arrive in time, then we make sure these bastards regret taking us prisoner. Hayes managed a weak smile. Hua, ma'am. The door opened again. 4 guards entered, grabbing Hayes roughly. He didn't resist, just looked back at Chin as they dragged him away. The door sealed. Chin stood slowly and walked to the wall. She pressed her palm against the warm, pulsing surface. Somewhere beyond this cell was the bridge of this dreadnought. Somewhere beyond that was the vast emptiness of space. And somewhere in that emptiness, she had to believe, was help. She resumed counting. 60 seconds to a minute. 60 minutes to an hour. Time was both enemy and ally. Every hour that passed brought potential rescue closer. Every hour also brought more interrogation, more torture, more chances for her crew to break. She thought about Earth. About the homeworld she'd left 6 years ago to join the scout service. Earth was still recovering from first contact with hostile alien species, still building its defenses, still learning how to survive in a galaxy where humanity was neither the strongest nor the smartest. But humanity had one thing no other species seemed to possess, an absolute refusal to accept defeat. Other species fought until the cost became too high, then surrendered. Humans fought until they won or until there was nothing left to fight with. The Carthene Empire had conquered 47 species. But they'd never faced a species like humanity before. And Prince Vokresh was about to learn why that mattered. Hours crawled past. Chin marked time by the ship's vibrations, by the rhythm of her own heartbeat, by the slow accumulation of exhaustion. She slept in brief intervals, waking at the smallest sound. When the guards came for her again, she was almost ready. They took her to the interrogation room. Prince Vokresh waited, but this time he wasn't alone. A massive Carthene stood beside him, armor marked with royal insignia that made even the prince's look plain. The translator rendered the prince's words. Lieutenant Commander Chun, I present Crown Princess Sereth, first heir to the Carthene throne and commander of our expansion fleet. Her presence honors you. The Crown Princess studied Chin with the same unsettling four-eyed gaze. When she spoke, her voice came through the translator deeper, more resonant than her brother's. This human survived 6 hours of neural induction. Most species lose consciousness within 1 hour. Either your pain tolerance is remarkable, or your determination to protect your unit overrides basic survival instinct. Both, Chin said. Your information regarding fleet deployments was partially accurate. The ship classifications and communication protocols were correct. However, the positions you provided were months out of date. You deceived my brother. This shows tactical thinking under duress. Impressive. Also futile. Princess Sereth moved closer, circling Chin slowly. We have been monitoring your homeworld's transmissions for 18 cycles. We understand your species better than you might think. You are violent, short-lived, and emotionally unstable. You form irrational attachments to individuals rather than prioritizing collective survival. These traits should make you easy to dominate. And yet here we are, Chen said. Indeed. Here we are. You have given us incomplete intelligence. You have resisted interrogation beyond statistical expectations. And your vessel, despite being outgunned and outnumbered, managed to damage one of our escorts before being destroyed. None of this should be possible for a species your age. The princess stopped directly in front of Chen. So I will ask you directly, what makes humans so difficult to defeat? Chen met those four dark eyes. We don't know how to quit. All species believe that until they are conquered. Then, you haven't been paying attention to our transmissions. Check your history files. Look up Thermopylae, the Alamo, Stalingrad, Wake Island. Humans have been outnumbered and outgunned since we figured out how to sharpen sticks. We're still here. Princess Sareth made a gesture to her brother. Prince Vokresh stepped forward, holding a data tablet. The verification of your information is complete. Of 12 fleet positions provided, 9 were incorrect. 3 communication protocols were outdated. You lied systematically. This merits enhanced interrogation. Wait. Princess Sareth raised one hand. I wish to try something different. Lieutenant Commander, I will offer you a choice. Provide accurate intelligence regarding Earth's military capabilities, and we will release one member of your crew. A genuine exchange. Cooperation for mercy. Chen's mind raced. It was a trap, obviously. The princess was testing whether she could be manipulated through compassion. But there might be an angle here. You'll release them where? In an escape pod in neutral space? We will place them in stasis and deliver them to the nearest Earth outpost when circumstances permit. So you're saying you'll hold them as a prisoner just somewhere else? That's not release. The princess tilted her head. You are quite correct. Let me revise. Provide accurate intelligence, and we will place one crew member in an escape pod with sufficient supplies and a functioning beacon. They will have a genuine chance at rescue. Chen considered. If it was real, she could save one person. But giving the Carthene accurate intelligence could endanger thousands. The math was brutal but clear. No deal. I won't trade Earth's security for one life. Not even the young corporal? Hayes, I believe. He reminds you of yourself at that age, does he not? The psychological profiling was good. Chen felt the hook being set. She forced herself to think past emotion. No, not even him. Princess Sareth made a sound that might have been approval. You prioritize the collective over the individual. This is unexpected in your species. Perhaps humans are more capable than our projections indicated. She turned to her brother. I am reassigning these prisoners to enhanced study. Do not damage them further without my authorization. Sister, they are spies and invaders. They are intelligence assets of unprecedented value. Look at the data. This unit has resisted interrogation at a 93% effectiveness rate. The galactic average is 46%. Either our techniques are failing or humans possess a psychological resilience we have not encountered before. I intend to discover which. The princess moved toward the door, then paused. Lieutenant Commander Chen, I will return tomorrow. We will continue this conversation when you have had time to consider the reality of your situation. Your crew will remain unharmed until then. You have my word. The word of a conqueror isn't worth much, Chen said. Perhaps not. But it is all you have. They left. The guards returned Chen to her cell, but Hayes wasn't there. She was alone again with her thoughts and the endless counting. 60 seconds to a minute. 60 minutes to an hour. 27 hours since capture. 21 hours until the scout protocols triggered a rescue response. assuming they triggered it all. Chen allowed herself to lean against the wall and close her eyes. She was running on fumes now, body pushed past its limits, mind starting to fray. She needed rest, but couldn't afford it. Had to stay alert. Had to be ready. The door opened. Chen's eyes snapped open, adrenaline flooding through her exhaustion. But it wasn't guards or royalty. It was Lieutenant Park, shoved roughly into the cell. The door sealed. Park looked worse than Chen felt. Her uniform was shredded, exposing bruises and what looked like electrical burns on her arms. But she straightened when she saw Chen and managed to salute. "Ma'am, good to see you. Sit down before you fall down, Lieutenant." Park collapsed against the opposite wall. They had questions. Lots of questions. About you, actually. Wanted to know if you'd really sacrificed the whole crew to protect classified information. I told them you would. They didn't believe me. They believe me now. You okay? I've been better. But I'm still breathing, so that's something. Park looked around the cell. Is it just us? Hayes was here earlier. They separated us again. Smart. Harder to coordinate if we're split up. Park was quiet for a moment. Ma'am, do you think rescue is actually coming? Chen had been asking herself the same question for 27 hours. I think we have to act like it is. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. And what's the worst? The worst is they torture us until we break, extract everything we know, then kill us or keep us as lab specimens. So we don't break. We buy time. We protect each other. And if rescue doesn't come, Chen paused, then we find a way to escape or go down fighting. Park laughed weakly. 12 humans against a dreadnought full of aliens who are bigger, stronger, and better armed. Those are terrible odds. We've had worse. When? Give me a minute, I'll think of something. This time Park's laugh was genuine. You're a terrible liar, ma'am. But I appreciate the effort. She closed her eyes. My family doesn't even know I'm missing yet. The notification won't go out until we're officially declared Kia. Could be weeks. Months maybe. Then, we make sure they never have to get that notification. They sat in silence, conserving energy. Chen's mind kept working, analyzing everything she'd seen. The ship's layout, the security protocols, the locations where she glimpsed other crew members. Information was ammunition. She needed every round she could gather. Time passed. Chen dozed briefly, woke, dozed again. Park was asleep across from her, breathing steady. Good. Rest was critical. The ship's vibrations changed. Subtle, but Chen felt it immediately. They were decelerating, coming out of whatever FTL drive the Carthene used. That meant they'd reached a destination. Park woke. We've stopped. Yeah. Question is where? They waited. Chen counted heartbeats, measured time by the rhythms of the living ship around them. Finally, the door opened. For guards, plus Prince Vokresh. On your feet, the translator rendered. Crown Princess Sareth wishes to show you something. They were marched through corridors to an observation deck. Through the massive viewport, Chen saw a planet. Blue and green, similar to Earth but with different continent configurations. And, in orbit around it, hundreds of ships. Carthene warships of every size, from scout vessels to massive dreadnoughts that made the Sundered Crown look small. Behold Carthex Prime, Prince Vokresh said. Heart of the Empire. Home to 12 billion Carthene. Center of the greatest civilization this galaxy has ever known. He gestured at the fleet. This is 1/10 of our military strength. The rest is spread across 47 conquered systems, maintaining order and preparing for the next expansion. Chen studied the fleet, counting ships, categorizing them. The tactical officer in her brain was taking notes even as despair tried to take root. There were so many. Earth's entire navy couldn't match this. Humanity was doomed. No. She cut that thought off immediately. Despair was a luxury she couldn't afford. Why show us this? Park asked. Because Princess Saratha's voice came from behind them. I want you to understand the futility of resistance. Your species believes it can stand against the Empire. This belief is irrational. We number in the trillions. We control hundreds of worlds. We have been conquering and expanding for 200 of your years. Earth barely has colonies beyond its own solar system. Qin turned to face the princess. Size isn't everything. History is full of empires that got overconfident. They all fell eventually. Name one empire that fell to a species as young and weak as yours. We'll be the first. Princess Sarath made that sound that might have been laughter. Your confidence is remarkable. I am beginning to understand why humans are so difficult. You genuinely believe you can win. We don't have a choice. You're the ones who came into our space. You're the ones who started this war. We're just trying to survive. Every species says the same thing. They all fall nonetheless. The princess moved to the viewport. However, Crown Princess Sarath, I have decided something. You and your crew will not be interrogated further. Instead, you will be studied, tested. We will determine what makes humans so resilient, and then we will use that knowledge to defeat your species more efficiently. That's what every enemy has said. We're still here. Then, perhaps you will teach us something useful before you die. Princess Sarath gestured, and the guards moved forward. Take them to the research facility. Inform Chief Analyst Corbin that these specimens are for comprehensive study. Neurological, psychological, and behavioral analysis. I want full reports within one rotation. As they were dragged away, Qin caught one last glimpse of the planet below. Carthax Prime. The heart of the Empire. If they were on the Carthene homeworld, rescue became almost impossible. Earth didn't even know this system's location. They were on their own now. Truly, completely alone. The research facility was clinical and cold. Rows of examination tables, each one surrounded by equipment that looked half medical, half torture device. Qin and Park were separated again. Qin was strapped to a table while Carthene technicians attached sensors to her skull, her chest, her spine. They worked with efficient precision, discussing her physiology in their clicking language as if she wasn't there. Chief Analyst Corbin entered. He was smaller than the warriors, more slightly built, but his movements suggested intelligence rather than strength. Lieutenant Commander Chun, I have reviewed your interrogation records. 6 hours of neural induction with minimal psychological fracturing. Deception under duress. Resistance protocols maintained despite extreme stress. You are either exceptionally trained or exceptionally stubborn. Both. We shall see. Corbin activated something, and images began flashing on screens around the table. Rapid-fire sequences, human faces, Earth landscapes, warships, battles, civilians, children. Qin realized what he was doing. Baseline emotional response mapping. Looking for triggers, vulnerabilities, pressure points. She kept her face neutral, breathing steady. Don't react. Don't give them anything. But when Hayes's face appeared on one screen, her heart rate spiked. Just for a moment, but the sensors caught it. Corbin made a note. Interesting. Strongest reaction to the youngest crew member. Protective instinct. Common in social species, but particularly pronounced in humans. This can be exploited. Leave him alone. I will do what serves the Empire. Your preferences are irrelevant. Corbin moved to another console. Now we begin the cognitive resilience tests. I will present you with scenarios. Some hypothetical, some based on actual Earth history. You will choose between options. Each choice will reveal aspects of your decision-making process. The scenarios began. Impossible choices, trolley problems, utilitarian nightmares. Save one person or save 5. Sacrifice civilians to win a battle. Trade intelligence for captured soldiers. Chen answered honestly, knowing each response was being analyzed, mapped, categorized. She couldn't hide her psychology, but she could control her explanations. Hours passed. The tests continued, growing more sophisticated. Visual puzzles. Logic chains. Memory challenges. Chen's exhaustion made concentration difficult, but she pushed through. Every test she completed without breaking was a small victory. Finally, Corbin stopped. Sufficient data for preliminary analysis. You may rest. The restraints released. Chen sat up slowly, muscles screaming. What have you learned? That humans are paradoxical. You value individual life intensely yet sacrifice readily for abstract concepts. You recognize logical optimization, but choose emotional solutions. You are simultaneously cooperative and competitive, peaceful and violent, rational and irrational. It makes you unpredictable. Good. Unpredictable is hard to defeat. Perhaps. Or perhaps it merely means you will defeat yourselves eventually. Corbin gestured to guards. Return her to confinement. Tomorrow we begin physical resilience testing. Chen was taken to a new cell, larger than before. The rest of her crew was there, all 12 of them. Someone had decided isolation was less useful than group dynamic study. Hayes stood when she entered, relief visible on his face. Ma'am! You're okay. Define okay. Chen looked around at her team. They were battered, exhausted, but alive. Everyone accounted for? Yes, ma'am, Lieutenant Park said. They brought us all here about an hour ago. No explanation, just dumped us in here. They're done with interrogation. Now we're research subjects. They want to understand what makes humans tick so they can use it against Earth. Chen sat down, back against the wall. The crew gathered around her, tight group, drawing strength from proximity. So what do we do? Ensign Okoye asked. We survive. We observe. We look for weaknesses in their security. And when the opportunity comes, we take it. And if no opportunity comes, Chen met each pair of eyes in turn. Then we make one. We're scouts. It's what we do. We go where no one else goes. We survive what no one else survives. And we bring back intelligence that saves lives. That doesn't change just because we're prisoners. Hayes nodded slowly. Earth doesn't leave scouts behind. Damn right. Chen leaned her head back, closing her eyes. Get some rest, all of you. Tomorrow they're going to test us harder. We need to be ready. She felt the crew settling around her, heard their breathing steady as exhaustion took them. Chen stayed awake, counting one more time. 34 hours since capture. 14 hours until the scout protocols should trigger rescue. Should. But they were on Carthex Prime now, heart of an empire that had conquered 47 species. Rescue might be coming. Or it might not. Either way, Chen and her crew would be ready. Because humans didn't quit. Even when they should. Especially when they should. That was what Princess Sareth didn't understand yet. What the entire Carthene Empire didn't understand. They were about to learn .3/3.